In this video, we'll be learning how to filter data using SQL. And first up is using the where function, which filters rows based on specified conditions. And next up we have and, which ensures that all conditions are true. Next up is or, which also ensures that at least one condition is true. And in, which matches a value against a list of possible values. We also have between, which filters values within a range, not, which excludes specific conditions, like, which searches for patterns in text using wildcards, and null, which finds missing or unknown data in SQL. Okay, we have a fun, packed episode right here for our course, and I'm looking forward to getting right into it. Okay, so looking at our data set right here, we have everything we got, all good to go. And the first question right here is we have to bring in only the customer names and their ID who are from Vermont. Okay, so like I said, a little bit different than the previous one. All we do in the one before is bring in the names and ID. However, we have a filter here, right? We have a specific filter we're looking to get, and we only want people who are from Vermont. So I'm going to do here, as I'm going to go to line 7, and I'm going to start off the same way by doing my select function because I want to bring in data. And I have to think, okay, what are the columns I'm trying to bring in? I'm trying to bring in the customer name and the ID. So let me go off and start with customer underscore name and then ID. Click enter. And where is this coming from? It's coming from SQL course.data. So from our database, which is SQL course, and our data set is called data. And this is where things change a little bit, okay? Because if I run this, it's going to pull in every single person and their ID from the data set. I don't want that though, right? I want only people from Vermont. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click enter and type where, because think of where as almost like, how should I say this? It's almost like the if statement within Excel. We're saying like if this, that, right? So with this situation for where, it's like, okay, we want to bring this information where we create this base of this criteria we're looking for. And the where part is, okay, so it's from Vermont. So we got to think, what's Vermont? That is a state within the United States. And we have the state column right here. So we're going to say where, move my cursor a little bit, state is equal to, and with this sense, we have to think, okay, it's equal to what? Vermont, right? So in single quotes, single quote right there, Vermont. Cool. I'll put my colon at the end to close that. Okay, so it's saying we want to pull in the customer name and ID from the data set when the state is equal to Vermont. Let's see what we got here. Let's click run and take a look. Okay, so we got our results here, and like I said, there's only 14 names, only 14 of that. And you might be thinking, okay, so we have the customer name and ID, but how do we actually know that they're from Vermont? So we could do here's up in our select statement. We could do a comma and put in state as well. If this is correct, there should be another state column right here, and each of these should say Vermont. So let's run this and take a look and see what we get. And just as I expected, we are all good to go. This is perfect. And this is like a great way that in case someone has an urgent request and they're saying, hey, we need this specific information, knowing how to pull it in and where to get it from can really, really separate you. And this is absolutely perfect. And one thing to remember too is you might think, okay, we did the single quotes here, but these are the backticks. Just think that when you're pulling in information from a data set or database, we use backticks. If we're doing anything for a criteria or anything like that, it's a single quote right here. Okay, so our next question here is we have to bring in only the customer names and their ID who are from California, so it's similar to one before, and had a billing question. So now we have two different criteria we have to look for, right? So they need to both be from California and they had to have a billing question. So let's start off our query, do our select. So let's think again, right? Now, this is where things start getting a little interesting, right? There's a little more to this one, but let's think once again, starting from the top. What are we trying to pull in? We need to bring in the customer names and ID. We don't care about the rest yet. We have to know what we're looking for right away, which is the names and the ID. So let's start off with customer name and ID from SQL course dot data. And like I said, now we have a couple things here, right? We're using where again because we have to use that for this. However, we have to incorporate another one, which is and. So let's start off with where. So let's kind of go from left to right here. So we have to see that they have to be from California, right? So just like before, using the state column, because pulling from the state is equal to single quote California. Okay. Now there's another part we have to add in the and. So we could do two things. We could do another enter, but I want to keep it all in one row since we're doing a where statement. Move my cursor a little bit. We'll do and billing question. So we got to think, where could that be coming from? We have our entire data set here. What column would that make sense? And that's the reason column because the billing question right here. So we'll do and reason is equal to billing question. Cool. Close up with the colon. And let's select our data here and take a look. One other thing that can be done too is adding in the state and the reason. Just double check your work, which I just did. And as we can see right here in our preview, we pull in everything from California and billing question, and we are all good to go for this one right here. Okay, so next up is we have to bring in only the customer names who had an email or chatbot discussion. So this one's a little different, right? We only want to bring in the names. You don't need anything else, but they had to have had either an email or chatbot discussion. So let's start off our query here. Going to select customer name. And actually, you know what? Let's just do a little, save a little time here. We just copy this since we know where we're coming from. Paste that right there. And now this is where things are a little interesting, right? So we have to use the where function again. And we got to think, okay, so email or chatbot. So where's that coming from? Because we haven't used that one yet. Let's take a look. And so it's in the channel column. So we have to say where channel is equal to, so let's see, email. I just want to make sure we're typing this correctly. So email and chatbot equal to email or channel is equal to chatbot. Okay, let's close that up. So it's saying right there, we just want the customer name from the data set where channel is equal to email or chatbot. So let's take a look right here and run and take a look. Okay, so we get results right here. And just like before with all the others, if you want to double check your work, we got to think, okay, if we want to see to ensure it's only email or chatbot, we can put in a comma here and just type in channel. Okay, and I'll stay on the video with you guys right here. We run that. And I always like to do this too because you might think, okay, I got the names, we're all good to go. But what if I want to double check my work, right? I think it's the biggest thing with SQL is always double checking what you're doing. And yep, we're all good. We have our chatbot or email, and we're all good. And like I said, this is a great thing where, especially with BigQuery, we can do things like save results where we could throw this into a Google Sheet where you can send this off, get a quick report going. But yeah, we're all good with this one, and we can move on to the next question. Okay, so for the next one, it's going to be the same exact question. However, I want to use the in function for this instead of the or. Because we'll see over here is we had the same column where we had channel equals email or channel equals chatbot. But let's say this keeps going on forever and we're trying to find, multiple different parts within the same column. Instead of typing or over and over again, we could just use the in function for this. So let me go here and I'm going to take the entire query. We'll pull it down here. And okay, so we have everything good right here. So all I'm going to change is the following. Is I'm going to get rid of this where channel, and then I'm going to type in, move my cursor. And then within here is, okay, so within channel, what values am I trying to find? And for each one, I'm going to do the single quote. So I'm going to type in email first. And I'm going to put a comma and do another single quote for chatbot. Cool. So let me get out of here really quickly. So there's a difference, right? Where instead of typing or, and like I said, what if we needed to get calls as well? You're gonna do another or function and keep going and going. Well, instead we just type in and within one little area, type in the exact values we need. So let me hover over this, run it, and take a look. Awesome. So we get the same exact response. And like I said, comes in handy if you're trying to write queries and they're starting to get a little bit lengthy, or you have a lot of different criteria within the same column. Using the in function can really clean it up and simplify your query to a much, much easier way to be used. Not even just for you, but what if someone else has to use it, which is a very important thing about databases. So that's how you use the in function within SQL. Okay, so next question we got here is this one's going to be a little bit more than the previous ones, and I'll walk you guys through it. So we have to bring in only the customer names, the segment, and the call date, where it was negative and between October 1st of 2020 and October 25th of 2020. So we got a little bit more to work with here. So let's just get right to this and get going with our query. So just like before, we have to think, okay, what are we trying to pull in? We have our customer names, the segment, and the call date. So two new columns we haven't worked with yet. So what we got to do is do select. We got customer name. And we got segment is the name of the column as below. And then for the call date, it's call time stamp. So let's do call time stamp. Where is this coming from? Well, we know it's coming from the SQL course data. Make sure that's correct. And you got to think, okay, so there's a little bit going on here. So we have a couple different criteria where we have to make sure it was a negative call and it was between a couple dates. So we got to think, where was negative? So what is the column that is telling us what type of call it was from a let's say customer service perspective, and its segment. So you see right here with neutral, positive, negative. So let's start off with where segment is equal to negative. And let's do this now. And because we have two criteria we're trying to do here. And this is where we'll be using now the between function, which in SQL. So we have to do where segment equals negative and call timestamp between of 2020 and 2020. Go. Throws into single quotes to make sure we are all good here. Almost done. Perfect. So let's look at this really quickly just so we're taking a look. And it is, let's see here. We have customer name, segment, call timestamp from data, where segment is equal to negative, and the call timestamp is between October 1st, 2020 and October 25th of 2020. So let's take a look at our query and see what we get. Okay, if we take a look, we have each of the customers who left a negative review between these dates. And we see right here with the call timestamp column, this is everything we need, right? We have the customers who left a negative review during this time period. And this is really, really handy. I know that we went a little bit more, I wouldn't say the word difficult, but definitely, trying to think of a realistic concepts, right? Like sometimes you get a question from a stakeholder. It's not going to be very easy. It's not going to be very straightforward. So sometimes you got to really dig deep and think, okay, how can I pull this all together within one query? And as we did it right here, where we pulled in all the negative reviews that are between these two dates. Okay, so next up, I have to bring in only the customer names who did not leave a negative review. Okay, so if you're kind of picking up on some of the other questions, right, we're using all the other functions like in, and between. So if we're looking at this question, we are looking at who did not leave a review, a negative one. We're going to be using the not function here. So let's save a little time on this one, since I know this is definitely a lengthier video. We could just paste that here. We only need the customer name as what it says in the question. And right now, using the where function, we will say where not sentiment, because that is where that's coming from based off what we see here. Sentiment, negatives in that column. And within quotes, single quotes, we'll do negative. Close that up. And let's take a look and let's see what we get. Cool. Okay, so we get all the names here who did not leave a negative review. This might come in handy in case we need to take a look at some customers who have been, very loyal to us or have been, calling in, leaving great reviews. Maybe want to send a quick thank you email or something like that. So that's a quick, easy way on how to use the not function within SQL. Okay, so next question is we want to bring in only the customer names whose first name begins with an R. Now, might be a pretty random request, but you know what? It's our job. We have to try to get them the answer. So all I'm going to do right here is I'm going to start off using the previous one since we already been doing that a handful of times. And we got to think, okay, we have the customer name column from the data set. So we got to think this one's a little bit interesting, right? So it's a little bit different than the others. So what we do here is do the where. I have to think right now. So where's this coming from? So this is coming from the customer name column. So customer name. And in this one, we'll be using the like function. And this one is a pretty flexible one where it's kind of like, we're trying to see, for example, just thinking out loud. I want to find all the names that go with an R, right? So all I got to do with this one is type in the word like. And then after that, within single quotes, we have to kind of create the type of wildcard we want or the kind of specific function or filter we're looking for. So in this one, I'm going to type in the letter R. And then after that, I will do the percent sign. So that basically says I want to find anything that starts with a capital R and then anything afterwards, I don't care about. So this is everything we're looking for. We should be good to go. Let's do this. Close it up. Take a look and see what we get. Okay, now, like I said, very random request. But as you see right here, every single name we pull in has their first name begin with the letter R. And I don't know why someone might need it, but this comes in very handy just in case there is something that you need to pull in very specifically for maybe some kind of keyword or letter. This is very, very helpful for any kind of random request that might come in. Okay, I know this has been a lengthy video, but we are definitely at the last question, and we have to bring in only the customer names who gave a review score. So for this one, we're looking at our data set. What we have right here is the score column right here. It's on scale of 1 to 10. However, the customer or caller did not have to leave a score. So we only want to bring in the ones who left one. So for example, we don't want any of the ones right here to say null because there is no score. So what we're going to do here is let's just take our select and from the previous question, paste it here. And what we want to do here is think, okay, what's the column that is the score? Is the CSAT score right here. So let's move my cursor, where CSAT score, which stands for customer satisfaction score. And we got to think right here, we don't want the nulls. So all we got to do is not null. So that should be all good there because that's going to pull in everything that has a score. So let's do this. Let's cover this all up, run it through, and take a look. Okay, so we got all the names here, but like I said, let's make sure this is correct because it's a very, very important. So let's go over here to select, do a comma, let's put in the score column as well. Okay, we're all good. Let's run this because I want to make sure that, if someone's looking for this information and you don't give them the right stuff with this, it can really be very, very crucial. So let's take a look and yep, perfect. We get all of this. This comes in very handy, right? Because let's say you want to figure out, okay, what's the percent of people who actually left a score? That could be very important. Maybe we're not providing right satisfaction people, so we're only maybe getting 40% reviews. So that's very helpful right there. And like I said, we covered a ton. We covered a ton in this video. And it just goes to show that there's so much to be done in SQL from a filtering perspective. I really, really hope you enjoyed this one. And I really look forward to seeing you on the next one.